MGF rear sphere change. Can I, somebody with a bit of engineering know-how and a basic toolkit, actually do this on their drive? All sorts of things on the internet say it's a nightmare of a job to do. So let's find out if you actually can do it. Now yours is probably not looking like that. Yours is probably sunk and you keep pumping it up and sinking, pumping it up, sinking. Mine's slightly different, if you see. Mine is absolutely rock solid. It has sunk in the past, and I've pumped it up, and what I think's happened is the membrane between the fluid and the nitrogen chamber has perished, and when I've been pumping up the fluid I've actually been replacing the nitrogen with fluid, so now the whole system is rock solid. You might know that the system's handed. I've already taken the cover off, which is a little plastic cover that goes on here. What you've got, this is the bit for charging the driver's side, this is the bit for charging the passenger side. This piping here goes off to the front sphere. This one here goes all the way through to our rear sphere. So you've got a system for this side, a system for the other side. I'm taking the extravagant path of actually, once I've got it depressurised, I'm putting some little gizmos on there so I can pump each sphere up individually. But it costs 50 quid for the bits and pieces for that. It's up to you. Right, so you've got to have a plan. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jack the vehicle up and put some axle stands under it, just there. That way, taking as much of the pressure that's being applied to the system by the weight of the car off of the system, so as when we bleed the system, there's not a huge amount of pressure in there. So, part one, get those things under there. Axle stands, front and rear, on something nice and solid. And I hope you remembered to loosen the wheel nuts before you jack the car up, otherwise you'll be putting it back down again. Take it off. Right, the sphere is up in there somewhere. So as you can see, we haven't got a lot of access at the moment. A lot of the access comes from up the top. So moving on, we're going to remove the sound insulation off the parcel shelf and the engine bay cover, which is not too drastic at all. And then you start removing the air filter. But so on we go, up into this little area here. So I just flip the roof forwards, which is really easily done. In here you have these little clips, 5 clips like that. That unclips the roof, and you just remove all this carpet. That's not held in with any glue or anything, or shouldn't be. So you just take the whole thing, pull it, put it to one side. So you don't need to see me do that. Back to you in a minute. So that's your roof released, your passenger sort of insulation out and over there. Like I say, it's not glued in with anything, it just lays there. So keep the roof back with a little bungee rope. As you can see, it doesn't need to be ready for a hurricane. Now you've got 10mm bolts. 10mm bolts are going to anchor nuts there, so no loose nuts on the back. Just zip them out. You've got good access to the engine. So let's see access to the engine then. Okay, so engine cover off. Keep all your nuts and bolts in a little pot. You don't want to lose those for later on. So this is what we're looking at. I've taken the grill off the back there, and the engine cover's off here. Hood's held out of the way by a bungee rope. Now I've already got a K&N air filter on here, but if you've got a standard air filter you're still going to need to take it off, because that dome in the centre of the picture there, that's the top of the sphere. So as you can see, your K&N air filter or your ordinary air filter, a lot more gubbins goes in there with your ordinary air filter. That all needs to come off, but not too many shocks and horrors with that one. It's all standard nuts and bolts. So crack on, get the air filter out of the way. Air filter removed. If my torch stays on, you'll see down here, that's your sphere, and that's your pipe going to the front there, and these are the unions. The torch has gone off, but those are the unions we need to split to get the sphere out. Now back round in the wheel arch. This is the bottom of the sphere here, and you need to undo, I believe, 4 bolts. One there, one that's hidden up there, and 2 that are hidden behind the shock absorber. So I'm going to release the shock absorber from these bolts here. There's a head of a bolt around there, and the other end there, the nut. And I'm going to see if I can just manoeuvre the shock absorber to one side to give me access to the two bolts behind. And this one here, you need to drill a hole through the wheel arch to gain access, because that is a bit of a pig to get to. And I need to get new batteries for my torch. Right, back in a bit. Just a quick one at this point. Shock absorber bolt, really easy. 17mm on the nut, 13mm on the bolt. If you're lucky, your whole bolt assembly will be free. If it's not free and you need to bang it out, don't take the nut off and bang the end of the threads, because you'll ruin the threads. Have the nut on there at least halfway and bang the end of the nut. That way you won't end up needing to replace the whole bolt. I'm quite fortunate, mine's loose, and we'll just slide right out. Now there's a spacer in there as well. See that little spacer just popping out of my fingers? Keep that. Obviously needs to go back in the same place as it came out from. Best thing to do with that, stick it on the bolt, as with all the washers and nuts. Right, there is another one of the bolts heads we need to get to, and the other one is up there somewhere. So I'll have a little investigate and get back to you. Well, some good news. Those more observant amongst you would have noticed that the bush in my shock absorber was hanging out. I'll put that back in. Now, if my torch stays on, which I don't think it will, there's the bottom nut. There's the bottom nut, and just up there somewhere is the top nut. See it? I think with the shock absorber pulled to one side, I might just have enough room there. And now I need to go and get my boy Wonder Son to help me bleed the system. Right, I'm going to try not to use words like it's easy and obviously, because they're really annoying in DIY videos. As I said earlier, the Schrader valve for the rear and the front on the driver's side, rear and the front on the passenger side. And here we have a bicycle adapter off your standard sort of bicycle pump, which you screw on to the point where it just breaks the seal. You might hear it still hissing and bubbling a little bit there, and you can seal the fluid underneath. I've already cracked the seal, and that is just the residual fluid dropping out. And what we're trying to do is release the pressure there from the system. Now, I had my safety goggles on when I first did that, because it goes all over the place. Now you want to release the pressure in the system at the front, because when you go down the back you don't want your fluid squirting everywhere. And even when you are going to split the system at the back, wear your safety goggles, because just in case there is some residual pressure in the system. It shouldn't be, but it's just common sense and safety first. So we're going to go around the back and dive in here where we were earlier, split the hydraulic system, and then try and release the sphere from in the wheel arch. Now, one thing I should have said earlier, probably easier from this way. When you've got your air filter off, you're left with the throttle body. The throttle body doesn't come with yellow and black tape on it, but I'm going to be doing this job over a series of a few days, but by the magic of video, it's all going to be collated into one short video. That throttle body is now open to go directly into the engine. You don't want any debris or anything going in there, so you've got to try and think ahead with things as you go along. Tape that up. If anything squirts in there, it's then going to go straight into your engine, cause you lots of problems. So, right, back to the wheel arch. We'll split the system, back to the wheel arch, see if we can get the sphere out. Okay, so something I've discovered, which is a bit of a pain in the backside, but never mind. The two bottom nuts on our piece that we're trying to take off, this piece here, the two bottom nuts, they came out reasonably well, and they're into anchor nuts. You can get onto the top one there with an extension bar. With the shock absorber released, you have to push it right over to get the angle on there, but that top one there and the other top one, which we know we've got an access problem to, are on loose nuts. Look at that, they ain't coming out. So I'm going to go back around here. I've wedged it up. I have another ratchet and a long socket on the back of there, and hopefully I can keep that on there while I'm doing the other side. You might just be able to see my extension bar from the other side there. So that's a bit of a pain in the bum. Don't know why he would put captive nuts on the bottom and loose nuts on the top. There we go. Right, so I'll try and get those two out and see where we go from there. Okay, so I've got my hole drilled for the top right hand bolt. But a point of note here, really important. Just in here, just behind this panel that you're going to have to drill through, is a brake line. So that goes straight up. I've marked on there. You can see, marked on there, it goes straight up. You've got to drill a hole through there right next to it to get access onto the nut at the top. Now I've gone through with a quarter drive, drilled a hole just big enough for a quarter drive, and then I've got an adapter from a 3/8 ratchet. I'm lucky, mine's loose. I didn't go too mental on this side trying to undo it, because you're going onto the head of the bolt. A lot easier to undo the actual nut. That's cracked off quite easily there though, but don't go too mad, because you're only on quarter drive and you don't want to smash your socket. Try and wedge it up on this side and undo it from the inside where you've just got the nut. I should be able to get that out quite easily. That's already cracked on this side. So what happens when all four nuts are off and bolts are out? Let's have a look. So to get access, to get a spanner socket on the nut on the back of that top right hand one is quite difficult, but it is doable. I've still got all the skin on my knuckles. And so now all the four bolts are out. They're just these, they're 10mm on the front and they're 13mm nuts on the back, so plonk them in a pot. So that has released this little thing here. So poke that out the way, and that is the clamp thing that's holding your sphere in. There is the sphere, and it's a bit loose, and we need to try and compress that bit up. You might see it just moving a tiny bit. Need to compress that bit up, and somehow or other it comes out through that hole there. Last thing we need to do before rushing headlong into trying to do that is split the system inside, the hydraulic system. And when I do that, I'll be putting some tape over the end of the pipe that's going to stay with the car, for exactly the same reason as the throttle body. You don't want any contamination getting into the pipe work. So I'll split the pipe inside. I've already shown you that, no need to show you again. The access is really easy to that once you've got all the airbox out of the way. Once I've done that, crack on with this. This is evidently the most difficult bit. Here we go. So we'll show you just quickly, just split the hydraulic system. It's a 17mm spanner that you need, open-ended spanner obviously, and as you can see by the fluid, it did have a little bit of a squirt as I undid it, but because we bled it at the front, released the pressure, bled it, whatever, you know what I mean, you saw it earlier. Because we did that at the front, it didn't go burst everywhere, but cheap old safety goggles. Doesn't matter how cheap they are, as long as they're safety goggles, as long as they work. That's the main thing. Right, now I've got to try and get that sphere out of there, because it's all super loose, but there's not a lot of room to play with. So I'll work out how you do it and then tell you how you do it. So save you a bit of time and a bit of skin on the old knuckles. Right. Well, I made a breakthrough and it only took a minute or so. If I put the camera down there, maybe you can see a bit better. The sphere was on this pole here and there was a spring inside. And what I did was I got a big socket sitting on top of the suspension there and pushed up on this edge here, because that is the part of the sphere that goes in and out on the suspension. You can see it pumping out some fluid there in the background, and I just levered that up until it popped out. I've pulled the spring out of the way, and hopefully we can get that bar around the back. So get that bar around the back, and ooh, it's coming down. Ooh, bit of a lip there, hitting on that leg at the back. Get the socket out of the way. Squashing my fingers. It's a bit wedged. The thing is, once this comes out, the other one's got to go back in. And maybe we'll try over the other side. I've got this in the way. I'll come back to this in a minute. Okay, so as soon as I turn the camera off, I worked out you've got to be a bit brutal with the shock absorber. Give that a damn good yank. Like that. Damn good yank, and then you can pull the sphere out. Ta-da! One sphere with some fluid still inside, which I don't want to drip all over my brake disc. So there we go. Right, I've got to go and clean my hands up. I'll stop the camera with my chin, and then we'll compare front and rear spheres. Right, so here we have 3 spheres. This is the one we took out, and this are off a scrapper, and they're not in very good condition, but there we go. I know they work better than this one, but the question is, these are a pair. One's front, one's a rear. How do you know which one's which? The only way I've seen to tell the difference, and because part number information on the top is almost completely obscured, the bottom bowl. I'll try and get that as straight as I can on there. Can you see from this lip there's quite about a centimetre of straight edge, and then it curves down to your rubber dust ring there. It's the same on this one, about a centimetre, and goes down. Yet this one, there's only a couple of mil, and then it goes down. Now it's really important that you put a rear sphere in the rear of your car. If you put a front sphere in there, obviously there's a lot less load on the front spheres. If you put a front sphere in the back, it's just not going to do the job, because the rear spheres are made to make a lot more, take a lot more strain and load. So, to me, using common sense, that one's got a high edge there. This one's got a high edge, a long edge, a centimetre, and this one hasn't. And the fact that this one is far more rusty than this one would indicate also that this one has probably come from the rear of the car, where there's a lot more crud flying around. So, on those two things, with my Sherlock Holmes hat on, I'm saying that one is a dud one. I know that because I've just taken it out. That one is my rear that's got to go in, and that one is my spare front, should I ever need it. Now, I don't know how long this has been open. As you can see, there's a bit of rust around the rusty fluid around the neck there of where the union goes on. Flush it out with water. Flush it out with water a few times to get any muck out of it, and then try and get it back in the hole the same way as we got it out. Yank that shock absorber over, try and wedge it all in there. Right, but I thought that was really important. I needed to point out the difference between the rear and front, and that is really that little bit of flange there towards your bottom bit is the only difference I can see. Okay, enough of that. Let's get that one in there. Right, I did try to prime the sphere before I put it in to fill it with fluid, but as you can see, by the way, it's all damp around here, most of the fluid came out. Now, if I show you on the spare one, what I mean is once I'd washed it all out, I tried pouring the hydrogas fluid into there. I put a blanking plug on to stop it from coming out, but it just wasn't enough room to get the sphere in, so I had to put it in primed, full of fluid, without the plug on, and you have to mangle it around quite a bit, and as you can see, most of the fluids come out. So, the problem we have now is we have air in the sphere where there should be fluid. So my thinking now is I need to put the metalwork together here, secure it all back in, which should be reasonably straightforward, and then drop the vehicle down onto its wheels gently, compressing the sphere, hopefully forcing some of that air out, and then I'll connect the sphere up and bleed the system through with hydrogas fluid, with the sphere sort of compressed under the weight of the car to try to evacuate as much of that air that's got into the system as possible. So there we go. So right. So it's a matter of putting the plate back on here, and the 4 bolts, the 2 loose nuts up the top and the 2 down the bottom, yeah, right, come back to you when I've done that. So I didn't bother dropping the car down. I thought I'd jack the suspension up instead, just trying to squash that sphere together. Now I've never had one of those spheres apart, so I don't know how they're put together, but the idea being I'm trying to squash it to expel the air that's got into the system, but that didn't happen. I've completely squashed the suspension up, and I didn't get any fluid coming out of that joint there. The fluid that you can see there is what I've pumped through from the front. So still got some air in the system there, but what I've done is I've connected my pump onto the rear pipe with my new gizmos, and I've been pumping through the system, so I know I've got fluid through the pipe all the way to the back. So now what I'm going to do is connect that pipe up quite loosely to the sphere and give it some pumps, and I'm going to try and squirt fluid into the sphere and flush out any air that's in there. So I think I need to go and get my son to go on the pump while I have a look at the back. But yeah, so now I say it's taken about 30 pumps on there to prime the pipe going from the front to the back, and we're just trying to get as much air out of the system as possible. So laters, here we go. Okay, so we're down. Now we're into Operation Pump Up, which could take a while, and not forgetting that also the front system has been open as well, so I'll need to try and evacuate as much of the air from that system as possible when I come to pump that up. So there we go. Should take about 20 minutes to pump this up, see what happens. So nearly at road test time. We're pumped up, front, rear. Let's have a little suspension test. So that's got some suspension travel, didn't have any before. I just need to put all this together. Might need to adjust the suspension because it's all sitting really high on the driver's side at the moment because it's been down so low on the passenger side. So might need a little bit of sorting out there, but I'll put it all back together and then we'll sum up how it went, what I'd do differently and what tools you need. But for now, it's looking like a success. So I've just been for a test drive, settled the suspension down, popped the bonnet again because I need to do a final little bit of top up in the back and the front, but the other side has settled down. This was sitting way up, but it seems to be okay now. So what have we learnt? Yes, you can do it on your driveway. What tools did I use? All basic stuff. No Torx bits, no Allen keys, 10, 13, 17 mil. Don't think there was anything else than that. 10, 13, 17. And you saw all I went to my 1/2 inch drive socket set to use the extension bar as a pry bar to squash the sphere. But you can use anything for that. You need a big socket on the suspension arm, as you can see there. But I think that was one of the key bits. Is squashing the sphere to get it out. Would I do anything differently? Yes, I would. The plate that goes on with the 4 bolts, I would take that off before bleeding the system, before cracking the system open, the hydraulic system, because thinking about it, they're the only real mechanical bits that you have to take apart, and if you shear a head off a bolt there, or you have some problems, that's going to bring a stop to the job straight away. So maybe you want to do that before splitting open the hydraulic system. But there we go. I hope you've found this of use. It's not too scary after all, and my word, I've actually got some suspension back in my MGF. It's not brilliant when it's working well. Well, not the most comfortable ride in the world, that's for sure. It's not a Rolls Royce, it's not supposed to be. But there we go, that's the end of it. It's done. I've just got a little bit of topping up to do on my suspension. That's it. Next time I'll do something else on my MGF. I'll do a little video for that, so you won't be scared of doing whatever the next job happens to be as well. And one last thing, when you're putting everything back together, a bit of grease. Put a little bit of grease on the threads of everything, because it's probably going to be you that takes it apart next time. And a little bit of grease helps everything come apart and go together a whole lot easier. Alright, thanks for watching. Look out for more videos later on, sometime, whenever. Super. Bye bye.